And joining us now from the Emerald City Weather blog, emeraldcityweather.com, is meteorologist Scott Sistek. Joins us for our weekly conversation. Good morning, Scott.
Morning, Charlie.
Thanks for being here today. We wanted to start with the storm rolling in. Can you give us an idea of what we're looking at here?
Sure. I would pretty much consider this sort of like November normal. It's not really going to be like super impactful, but we just came off a weekend where it hit like 65, 67 degrees in some places. So now it's sort of like, all right, break's over. Now it's time to get back into the real November here. So looking at rain today, looking at some decent rain into tomorrow, and spoiler alert, it's not going to dry out much anytime soon.
Welcome to November. Will the leaves be gone by the end of this system?
So this system doesn't look too windy. We're watching part of it, rain today, and then as we get into tomorrow and Thursday, we're watching for an area of low pressure to kind of spin up somewhere off the coast. For earlier in the longer range models, we were thinking it's like, maybe it might come up in our way. The more recent model projections are showing it's looking more like it's going to go into Oregon or maybe even Northern California, but probably Oregon. That kind of gets us off the hook. It's not really a big storm anyway. It's mostly like, is it going to be 45 mile an hour winds, 50? Probably not for Seattle, just a blustery day. So I think it's going to do, like, the rain will do a good job knocking off the straggling leaves there. A little bit breezy. Nothing. We've seen worse already than what will be coming this week. So sort of like November usual, a little rain at times. Do you want your umbrella? No. Okay, maybe, but
Never.
Not really. And then do you as far as wind goes, usual Seattle blustery stuff, nothing that's you're really going to remember or feel impacts from.
So that is the forecast for the next few days, but we also have some guidance coming from the National Weather Service. I'm curious if we can pull up picture number 1. You shared this with us. And in this picture, Scott, this is the precipitation outlook for the whole country. What are we looking at? What do you see here?
So this is like around Thanksgiving. So NOAA puts out these daily outlooks that go out 6 to 10 days. They put another one that goes 8 to 14 days, and then they put out one that goes 3 to 4 weeks. So I chose the 3 to 4 weeks one to highlight just because that's bookending Thanksgiving, before and after. If you look at the Northwest, it's sort of like, it says equal chances, which means like there's no real signal like it's going to be wetter or drier than normal, but that kind of would tend to be sort of average precipitation. But then think about, okay, well, what's an average Thanksgiving in the Pacific Northwest? Probably wet, probably, rainy, blustery, just not like, we're not seeing any signals for like a super heavy rainstorm, but, maybe we'll pick out a couple of dry days in there, maybe for travel. Obviously it's too early to know exactly what's it going to be like on Thanksgiving or for traveling to or from. But so far, the signal for precipitation is pretty tame, pretty normal. Unlike there's other parts of the world you see on that map where it's a little wetter. But for us, so far, so good.
All right, Scott, you also have one of these fancy maps when it comes to temperature. What's that showing?
So that one I was a little more excited about. That one is painting us in the blue. So that it is leaning toward higher confidence of being cooler than average. That doesn't necessarily mean like it's going to snow on Thanksgiving. I want to get that out of the way. I know it's exciting to see blue on a map. I love seeing blue on a map. It's way more exciting than seeing red on a map for us. But what I would look at that and see is like, okay, if we're getting average amounts of precipitation, but it's cooler than normal, that's good news for the mountains. That's good for the snowpack. It's good for the skiers. It's good for, getting our ski season off on the right foot here. And we would expect that. We've talked a lot about La Nina. You've probably heard that buzzword everywhere. It's probably our second favorite term behind atmospheric river right now. But the La Nina usually does mean it gets cooler and wetter for the northern tier states, and specifically the Pacific Northwest. So odds are looking good. I wanted to highlight that it's like for skiers, there's some optimism here that, we're looking at least higher than average odds of getting a pretty good start to the ski season.
We're speaking with meteorologist Scott Sistek from the Emerald City Weather blog. And I think I heard those 3 words, snow on Thanksgiving. So thank you for that, Scott.
You can quote me on that, I'm sure. Now that's already over the internet. Scott Colin.
You just mentioned atmospheric river. And last time we had you on, a listener texted in and said, Atmospheric river, pineapple express. What's the difference?
Okay, so a pineapple express is a type of atmospheric river. Really quick, an atmospheric river is just a storm that we talk about, taps into tropical moisture and then feeds like this river of moisture. That's where it comes the name. It is almost literally like an atmospheric river of moisture. And it kind of taps into the tropics in the Pacific and then pushes it our way. That's when we get kind of like our warm, rainy days like we've seen already multiple times this fall. And that's why we've been hearing the term atmospheric river a lot. A pineapple express, that's probably a little more old school, but there was a specific definition for that in that the tropical moisture had to originate from down by Hawaii. That was sort of like where it got its name from, the pineapples of Hawaii. So it was like a river of moisture that started in Hawaii, where the pineapples are, and then made an express or a beeline toward the Pacific Northwest, and you have a pineapple express. If we can have an atmospheric river that's not a pineapple express, because sometimes that tap of tropical moisture doesn't come from Hawaii, it comes from other places in the Pacific. Pretty much all of the atmospheric rivers we've had already this year, none of them have been from Hawaii. So we haven't really called any of them a pineapple express. But grand scheme of things, pineapple express, atmospheric river, a pineapple express is very much an atmospheric river, similar impacts. It's just where does it come from? And it's really nothing official. It's sort of just like a moniker that local meteorologists have kind of latched onto over the years. I know we're not the only ones that use it. The ones, Oregon meteorologists, California meteorologists use it too. It's great for media. It's great for headlines. It's great for blog posts. But atmospheric river has become way more ubiquitous these days just because many more storms qualify as an atmospheric river that wouldn't qualify as a pineapple express. So my great friend Shannon O'Donnell at Como used to say all pineapple expresses are atmospheric rivers, but not all atmospheric rivers are pineapple expresses.
Now you know.
And you can always text your questions for Scott. We'll be sure to get them to Scott. So thank you for our listeners for doing that. In the moments we have remaining, I'm going to pop up picture number 3 here, Scott. And this is a picture that Peter Mongelo shot. And if you're driving down the road, you can't really see this, but what kind of clouds are those? And it looks like a big hole is punched into them.
The informal name is a hole punch cloud. It's also known as a fall streak cloud. But yeah, I'm sure somebody looked at it, looks like, just like you said, Charlie, it looks like someone punched a hole in the sky. And they said, that's a great name for a cloud.
Is it aliens, Scott? Is it aliens?
Let the conspiracy theories begin.
It is not aliens. It is something that is flying in the sky, though. They are caused by airplanes that are kind of descending or ascending through a specific type of cloud layer. So it's essentially like, when you're flying around and you see you're going through the clouds, you kind of cut through the clouds, nothing happens. But if you get like a very specific atmospheric setup where the plane goes through at just the right angle, it can kind of like cut a little hole in the clouds. And then you're seeing sort of like, the effects of that happening. So it's probably somebody on approach into SeaTac coming from the north, or maybe it was somebody who was getting ready to go, if they're going to Vancouver International or even Bellingham. This was taken in Marysville. So it was north sound, but we have seen these before. This is not like never ever. I've done blog posts on them in the past. They're really cool if you can see them. And then sometimes if the atmospheric pattern gets really wacky, you can see on a satellite image, you'll see multiple holes punched through, almost like Swiss cheese in the cloud layer. And then they float as the clouds go by and blow around. So it's a real interesting phenomenon. It's sadly nothing extraterrestrial. It's just aviation at its finest, aviation at its work.
They are very cool looking. I was hoping for a more creative answer, but thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Meteorologist Scott Sistek, thanks for joining us this week. EmeraldCityWeather.com is where you can find his blog. Thanks, Scott. Have a great week.